All right. Good evening, everybody. Good morning if you're over in the Philippines. Tonight, we have a very special treat. We have Jeff Hudspeth in the studio with us, and he was with us at the North Carolina Gamefowl Breeders Association barbecue 2 weeks ago, where we had a really good time. Got to see lots of beautiful roosters and a lot of folks out there, tons of competition. We were able to, there was lots of auctions where they were able to raise a lot of money to continue fighting the good fight. So it was a really good show. Good afternoon, y'all. How are y'all?
I'm good.
Doing good here.
Talking about it. Yes,
Yeah.
everything's good.
All right. So tell us about the North Carolina Game Breeders Association, how long you've been involved in it. Tell us about the cookout and all that good stuff.
I've been in this association since the early '80s, and raising money is always a challenge in these events. So we came up with this cookout. I think this is the sixth one we did, and it's primarily to raise money to pay legal issues, and every year it's gotten better and better. This year was very good. I mean, we had a good turnout, and it was a good year and a good event for us.
All right. Jeff, do you have any questions?
How many people, I heard rough numbers. Did they get a pretty good head count on how many people showed up for the event, Jeff?
Last year we had about 1,000, but this year we moved it from my farm to a fairground, and we've had somewhere in the neighborhood of 700, 800. I think that number will increase next year because of the new location, which was a good location. I mean, we had a good facility. Food was always as good as always. So I'm
I
looking
can vouch
forward
for
to
the
next
food.
year.
I was gonna say
I can vouch for the food. It was worth just coming for the food. So
like that made for a long ride home.
Yes, yeah, food was very good. We have some good cooks in our organization.
Yeah, definitely. Like for me personally, when I walked through the food line, I just walked in the building and I looked and I was like, oh, this is bad because you've got barbecue and all the fixings, then you got tacos and all the fixings, and it was like, what do I want? So I had to get some of all of it.
Yeah, yeah, we have a combination. We have a lot of Hispanics there. We have the Americans, so we decided we need two different types of food. And luckily, we have some really good Hispanic cooks and some good American cooks. So it works out. And all these people donate their time for zero charge. They don't charge nothing. And we have some very good people in our organization here in North Carolina.
Yeah, the food was great. I mean, the whole event was great. I mean, you had a great setup for the vendors out there under the tent. Got a little crowded, and like you said, I think next year you'll have another tent, so you have more room for the vendors and you have room for the auction. I thought I had heard from one of the American Legion guys, because they kind of run that. I thought I had heard 1,000 people they had clicked in, but maybe not. I thought I had heard a total of 1,000. So
okay, I was just guessing. I haven't talked to the people that actually serve the food and whatnot. They would know. So I was just sort of off the top of my head what I was guessing at.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like there was a lot of people there, and I mean, it was, yeah. And everybody for the most part is really friendly, right? And everybody's standing around, and they're talking about their farm or they're talking about their chickens, and they came around and saw all the vendors. I mean, Carrie and I were there for the first time, and I thought we had a really good amount of people coming by the booth talking about our products. it was really great to put faces to names, right? So, there was a half a dozen different people, I only know them by their screen name or, Facebook Messenger or something like that. You get to shake their hand and hear a little bit more about their story. So for me, it was a great day. It was a great event. I really appreciate you inviting us there, Jeff, because and I'll be back.
Sure, anytime. We'd be glad to have you. But I think every vendor I talked to did very well as far as their sales, people coming by that, discussing whatever they had to sell. And that tent stayed busy all day. That's the reason I said we need a tent for the vendors. We need a tent for the auction. And the auction is where we keep the chickens that we auction off that breeders donate for the organization.
I mean, and I'm going to tell you, every chance I got, I looked over there at all those birds, and there were some beautiful birds. And some people got some really good deals on those birds.
Yeah.
And I think it was a really good thing because people were able to get some birds from some big name breeders. And also, they were able to help out the organization and all the stuff that they do.
Yeah. The birds sold good. I mean, we had one, the highest selling one was 2,200 for one bird.
Yeah, what was that, Jeff?
It was a sweater rooster from Jean Badier.
Okay.
And then there was one 17, 18, some 15, 16. Carol Neesmith's, I think, brought 1,500. I think the cheapest one was probably 700, 800. From there on up to 2,200. I haven't got an exact average on it from our treasurer, but I'm going to say we sold around between $35,000 and $40,000 for chickens.
Now,
That's
were those
nice.
all pairs? Were those all pairs, or were they individual?
Individuals.
Yeah, they had individual
I saw guys
birds
walking
going for
around with
that.
hens.
Yeah.
Well, I saw a couple guys walking around with hens, so I didn't know,
Sure.
were they selling pairs or they sold singles, both cocks and hens.
I was going to say, I remember seeing some cocks and some hens as singles, and there was a couple that were pairs in there too, and the pairs went real high.
Yeah.
Real high.
Yeah, I seen one pullet bring 900, and several bring 600, 700, 800. So it was a good day for us as far as raising money for the organization.
Yeah. So they must have been good bloodlines, right? Well, well cared for bloodlines.
Breeders. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and believe it or not, we had people calling wanting to donate chickens after we already had our list together, and I didn't want to get too many because if you get too many, they may not bring what they're worth.
Yeah.
And I tried to keep, people like Carol, Jean, Luke Breeze, people like that donated, Tammy Shy. I mean, we had good breeders that had donated chickens, Bill Plummer. I mean, so I think we had good quality chickens there.
Well, you had visitors from all over the world there, right? I mean,
yeah,
there was a fair amount from Mexico.
Yes, there were several from California, a lot from Texas. One guy I know, he drove all the way from Kansas. I think it was 3 of them.
Yeah, there was 3 of them in that van from Kansas. And they left the morning before. They drove straight through. I asked them, they come by the booth and we were talking, and the 3 of them, they had made the trip pretty much straight through. They didn't stop, and get a motel and split up the trip. And I thought, man, you're crazy. That's a long ways.
I mean, if they had 3 drivers.
No, I thought they had 2 vehicles, so I don't know. But
no, they had 1 vehicle. And there were two groups of Filipinos there from the Philippines.
Yep, I saw them too.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to them. They didn't come by, but I saw them in the crowd, but I didn't, I didn't get to speak to them. So,
Right. Yeah, they were
yeah,
really nice people. I think they stayed here 3 days and
really
left here. Part of them left here going to Kentucky. So
must be the season for coming to the States looking for breeders and breeds and, that sort of thing.
it is. There's a lot of them around going from breeders looking for fruit fowl right now.
Mm-hmm. No, it was a great event. Like I said, I'll come back just for the food, if nothing else. So,
Yeah, you're more than welcome. You can carry it too.
yeah, just save us a space because we'll be back on the corner there again next year. But
Okay.
no, that was a good time. So, yeah, I mean, the auction I thought went really well. From where Carrie and I were at our booth, we couldn't see what was getting auctioned off at the time, right? I mean, the crowd surrounding the auction area was pretty tight, and it seemed like you had a fair bit of bidders in there, keeping that bid moving. So that's good.
We did, and it was a lot of interest. That's the reason I said we needed a bigger tent for the chickens, because we had such a good turnout of people that had interest in purchasing or bidding on some of the chickens.
Yeah.
So
So you had visitors before and after the show at your farm?
I did.
Yeah. You
That
you were
group.
busy enough without running the show.
Oh, that's the reason I didn't get there till late Friday night. That group from Kansas wanted to come to the house, and I said, "Well, me and Gene Body are going to eat dinner with the Filipinos Saturday night, and I won't be home till dark." That's fine. I said, "Okay." So they went with us too. So we all stopped for supper, and then they all followed me home. Well, I live 2 hours from that site. And I asked the Mexican guys from Kansas, I said, "Y'all got a room for tonight?" "Yes, we still have a room at the hotel down there." "Well, that's 2 hours away." So they're going to drive 2 hours back down there. And they were back at my house the next morning before I ever got out of the house. I said, "Y'all could have brought y'all stuff, got a motel here, because they had to come right by my house. And then y'all could have went on to Kansas." So but they drove back down there and come back. And I said, "Okay, whatever."
Yep.
I guess they like to drive.
It's their time. So, So how long you been in Gamefowl? I mean, was your dad in it? Was your grandfather in it? I mean, how'd you stumble into the, breeding Gamefowl?
I have no one in my family has Gamefowl or ever had Gamefowl.
Okay.
My family, we back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, we were into auto racing big time. My dad actually owned a racetrack, a dirt track. And my life was racing cars. And when I was 19, I was offered a ride in NASCAR, which thinking back, that was pretty young back then. In 1979, you just didn't hear tell of a 19-year-old running NASCAR. But my hearing had gotten so bad, I had to get away from the noise. And so I went with a guy to a poultry show one day, and I got to looking at it, and I said, there's not a lot of noise in this. And I like this. So I started from there, and about 82, 83, right in there. And I started from ground zero, I guess you could say. And I had to work my way up.
Yeah. What'd you start with? What was your first trio?
God, that's a long time. Because the first ones that I had that I actually had some success with were the Kelso chickens. And I still have them as of today. And
Same family, same line?
Yes, same line, yes.
Yeah. So, what, 30 years? Over 30 years you've been running that line?
At least, yes.
I mean, you got a variety on your yard. I was honored enough to come there, and you showed me around, showed me the yard and your different facilities. And I have to say, it's immaculate. Don't know that I've ever seen a yard quite set up that perfectly anywhere. So, thank you for that tour that day. I really appreciate your time, taking me around. So.
Anytime. I have really good help. I mean, I hear a lot of people complain they can't find help and then they can't find good help, but I'm very fortunate. The people here have been with me a long time. And
how many people you got? I only saw the husband and wife. How many you got?
There's a kid, and then my son, which he sells the feed in the boxes. But still, when I need help out there in the field, we help one another. So it's actually 2 full times and 3 part times, and then I guess I'm part time.
You're too busy. You can't be full time chickens, but
yeah,
you still get out there pretty often.
So
you're spending a good bit of time out on the yard. So, yeah. So what other families are you working with besides the Kelsos that you?
I have
what else
leapers.
Do you like?
I've got some leapers I've had a long time. The regular grays. I got some blacks that I've had for a very long time. And then I got some grays. I mean, some roundheads. But mostly the leapers, the Kelso, the blacks, the grays, and then the roundheads.
Okay. Well, you showed me the blacks. You had them up there in that breeding pen. You had some hens or pullets up there, near the facility, where you hatch out and stuff like that. But
Yes.
I saw the blacks. They're pretty impressive. You can tell that you've been working that line for a long time. So
yeah, I have had them for a long, long time.
Okay. So do you mix in blood? Are you bringing in any new genetics, or you've been working with what you have? You've been just trying to clean up what you own?
I'm pretty firm on freshening it up after a while.
Okay.
I know people, and I'm not a good enough breeder to keep them as athletic as I think they should be after a period of years. You can kind of tell when it starts declining. And when it does, I'll start looking for chickens that somebody I know very well, that chickens are pretty comparable to what I got. And, and I might breed that in, breed it out. And the show world today has changed from the way it used to be 20 years ago. And so, I'll breed blood in, breed it out. If I see something I think that I like, and I think has a lot of same characteristics as what I have. And probably they're related if you trace them back far enough, because a lot of these chickens people raising now, if you look at them, a lot of them starting to look alike.
A lot of them are looking alike.
I mean, they'll say
That's
this
true.
is a Kelso. They'll say this is a Kelso. I said, man, it looked like a sweater to me, but or this is an Albany. There's a lot of them starting to look alike.
A few weeks ago, I was in Mississippi doing some farm visits with somebody that was going around looking for some birds, some brood fowl. And one of the farms that we went to, the guy was like, "Oh, this is a sweater. This is a hatch. This is a Kelso." And I asked one of the guys that I was with, I was like, those birds look like triplets. I mean, the hackle feathers were the same. All the feathers, the coloring and everything was the same. Even the leg color was the same. And I'm like, I don't know.
Well, from my understanding, back before my time, when Harold bred the sweaters, they were yellow-legged McLean hatch and Boston Roundhead. They're both lemon-hackle, yellow-legged chickens. And so, you can breed back to either side, and they still look a whole lot alike.
Right.
And, then Kelso I know he got a rooster from Sweater, according to Johnny Jumper, what he told me. And he bred it, and so you see a lot of Kelsos come lemon-hackle, yellow-legged. And from what I understand, Kelso's theory, he bred the best of the best. Whatever he thought had the most ability is what he bred. So, like I said, there's a lot of them similar in looks.
See, I've got some McLean hatches that are from Little Ed's line before he passed, and you can tell that he kept that line tight and clean because all the stags that come off of that trio, they look identical.
Right.
So that to me is a sign of a good breeder, somebody that's kept it tight. Is
Sure.
you know what you're going to get. But when they have a whole bunch of different kinds of birds and they all look the same, it kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, not everything's pure out there anymore. So,
Well, never really was. Probably never really was. It just a few blends, and people started out with the blacks, the reds, the grays, and I know some of them that have maintained them for many, many years, but they've come smaller, maybe shorter. You know, it's takes a really good breeder to keep their athletic ability to where it needs to be nowadays, and inbred and line bred them for 30 years.
And I mean,
yeah,
to
it
me, a
takes
lot of that,
patience to do that.
it takes a lot of patience, yes. And I think it takes time. Like you have to work with your birds. I've told this to people before. I could take some of your birds. I could get a pair from you and have some amazing birds. But if I just throw them in a pen and hatch some chicks out and let them go for a year or two, they're going to lose it. They're not going to be what they were when I got them from you. People, they get the good bloodlines, but they also got to do the work to maintain it.
Yeah.
And that to me is where a lot of them are done a disservice.
You know, in my opinion, selecting a brood cock or a brood stag, I tell people this, and I think some of them think I'm maybe out there in left field, but the chickens I've seen that made the best brood cocks, when I seen them from 50 to 75 foot away, and I said, man, that's the nicest rooster in this field. Usually, I've noticed that's usually the best brood cock. If you got to walk up to one and start trying to find something you like about it, you know, that's probably
You
not what
need to
you're
keep
looking for.
walking.
But when you can see one when you just look at it from a distance, you look out there in the whole, and say maybe 25 cocks, and you see one in the whole bunch that stands out, that's usually your brood cock.
Yeah. I could agree with that. You know,
That's where
Yeah.
I would start at anyway. If he looked that good, he'd be the one I'd go check out.
I've seen people doing their selection and they'll pick one up and they'll start looking at the legs and pull the wings out and feeling the keel and all that good stuff. And I'm like, were you not in love with it when you picked it up? Are you trying that hard to find something? I don't want to, if I'm going shopping, I'm not going to pick one up that I don't love looking at it. I want to pick it up for confirmation. I don't know. That's just me though. I don't have a whole lot of patience. I'm like you. I want to go out on the field, scan it, see that bird that says that's the one, and then go over there and check it out.
Yeah. You know, the Vietnamese people, they're really big with counting the scales, looking at the spur location, the prop toe location, and things like that. I mean, they're really huge in that. Everybody, there's a lot of ways to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish in this industry, and people go different ways to get there. Like people ask me, what is the best chickens? I said, look, if they were a best chicken, every one of us would have the same chickens. You got to find what suits you and what you want to use them for, and then decide which one you want.
Let's see. Tying into all this, we have Luis here. He wants to know how Mr. Hudspeth goes about selecting a brood hen or pullet. You talked about looking for the brood cock. What are you looking for in a hen?
Well, you're looking for station, conformation, eyes, heads, all those things, tails, whether tails set. When I say I find 10 pullets, and these 10 I like, I'll put them in a pen. And where I can walk by them, I do the same way for chickens I'm going to breed, a new rooster. I put them close where I'm going back and forth a lot, so I can watch them during the day. Every time I go by, I'll look at them. And you eventually just, if you like the way all of them are made, and you like the health and everything about, you'll pick some out that always just seem to act better. They may be healthier, I don't know, but they'll be more alert. They'll stand taller, and you'll pick them out. And let's say 10, I'll pick out 2 or 3.
Yeah, I've got some of those green fold out Filipino pins that I use for that. That's what I use those for my selection. I'll set them up in the yard, put some birds in them, and I'll walk around and select. I've been doing that a lot the last couple of weeks, putting together my breeding pairs for next year. And I've been, I'll take these and put them in there, and when I go feed and spend time in my yard, I check them out.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. And like I was talking about, seeing that rooster from a distance, the hens are the same way. If you walk up to a hen or a rooster, they think you're going to feed them probably. So they tend to all act pretty good then. Got to get away from them and let them do their thing, and then you can judge them.
Do it after you feed them.
Yeah.
Wait about an hour and see what happens.
Because if you walk going down through there, they're thinking, well, they all start acting pretty good then because they think they're going to be fed.
Let's see. Michael Dwayne says, what about picking sisters to the brothers and do the best with that clutch?
There was a time, if I brought in a new family of chickens, first thing I did was bred them brother and sister. Usually 2 things happens. Seems like they turn out real good or real bad. But then again, maybe I didn't know how inbred or line bred they were before I got them. Those might have done better because they may not have been as much. But when we used to really test their fowl, that's what I would do. Now I try not to do that, especially if it's chickens that you're going to try to sell somebody for show purposes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that sounds like a good plan. If you do that, you see what you got. If it gives you the results that you expect, then that's a clean line. Somebody spent the time to work with them. And if it throws out some garbage, there's messed up genetics in there, and you may never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Usually 1 or 2 things, like I said, happen when you do that. It's going to be really good or really bad. So if it's bad, you want to know pretty quick.
That's true.
Yeah. But if it's really bad, you're all the way back at the drawing board. So then you got to decide, do I have 10 generations to clean this up, or do I go find some other birds, in the same strain or bloodlines? But
yeah, how important is it to you?
Yeah,
well,
exactly. Important is it to you?
Combinations are most of what people are looking for now. The good combinations for people that are the most athletic, and that's a big thing right now. That's what I look for.
Now, are you taking any birds to the NCGBA shows?
Yes.
Have you been attending any of those?
I do. Sometimes I do, but if I'm there, usually I have to judge, and I'm one of the judges for those shows. Judges.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
When's the show schedule come out? So if somebody wanted to come, and how do we find out about that? Is that all on the NCGBA Facebook page, or when will we know what that show schedule is going to be?
We're working on a schedule now. We try to have six events a year.
Okay.
And we haven't finalized a couple of them yet, so should be out by December anyway. They'll start in January.
Okay.
And we usually the first ones are usually in the eastern part of the state, and then we sort of work our way back toward the western part as the weather gets a little bit warmer. But it should be out by December. It should be.
And you're getting more and more guys to show up at those shows, right? It sounded like, it's gradually getting bigger.
Yeah, the shows are really doing good. And we entertained the idea that maybe we would start paying money for whoever who had the most points at the end of the year. Give them some kind of prize, and maybe that would create a little more interest. Because it's based on a points judging anyway, and we keep up with the points, and it'd be very easy to say, hey, this guy won the most points during the season. And at the cookout, what we did last year, we gave him a bigger trophy and we gave him a prize. And so I was trying to figure out ways to create more people coming to the shows.
Yep, get more guys showing up. Right.
Mm-hmm. And especially kids. We have a kids class. We show bantams. And so I would like to see more kids participating.
Yeah.
I was going to say, there's a few kids there, but having more would definitely be great. That's the future of the sport.
Sure.
So, Jeff, George Cruz from Saipan wanted to know, your thoughts on, like, does the keel matter? Are you looking for a long keel, short keel, deep body? Is there any part of that, kind of goes into your determination, when you're looking at birds to keep or what you're breeding for?
Absolutely. For me, I like a compact, round-bodied chicken. If you'll notice, those chickens can move right to left better than a longer-keeled chicken. Now, that longer-keeled chicken, when he gets set, he's probably stronger. But depending on what you want to use them for, some people like the ones that can move better, kind of like a boxer. Ray Alexander told me this one time. He said, you're looking for something kind of like a boxer. They got to hit and move, hit and get out of the way. And so I think the compact, rounder-bodied chickens are more capable of doing that in most breeds. The longer-bodied ones, they may be a little stronger, but they got to be set and they got to be going straight ahead. So, again, it depends on what you want to use them for.
So the longer bodied, the longer keeled birds, they're not going to have quite the mobility, but they're going to have more power, is what you're saying, right? They're going to have more strength.
Yeah.
So
they'll get hit.
If they get a chance to use it, they have more strength. Yeah.
Yeah. So, they'll get set and hit straight ahead better.
Kiku asked. All right. So Kiku asked, how do you determine your ideal brood stock? Are you looking for a preferred characteristic? You got some temperament considerations in there, but yeah, and even with pure family, not all offspring are going to show those preferences. But Kiku's kind of wondering, what are you looking for as far as a preferred characteristic? Is there anything in particular other than what you've already told us? Are you looking at temperament or anything like that when you're selecting?
Most of my life, I've traveled with birds. I mean, there was no place. Sunset used to be the closest place I went to. That's 900 miles. Then to the Bayou, maybe, and then Mexico, then the Philippines. So I had more luck with chickens a little bit high strung. Now, it takes you a little longer to calm them down when you get preparing them for a show, but it just seemed like they stayed with me longer than these. I call them, some of them like pets. And of course, everybody wants that because they don't want to spend no time to calm them down. But that's something that didn't bother me if they was a little bit high strung. Now, I don't like mean rooster for man fathers by no means.
Right.
But them chickens like that, if you put them on the tie cord, And if you'll walk across their area, say you go across their area every day, back and forth, it ain't gonna be long. They're gonna get tired of that. They're gonna let you know it because hey, this is my spot. I kind of like to see chickens like that.
Okay.
So yes, that's something I do prefer.
So what, like when you're in the conditioning stage or you're bringing the birds along, do you have a protein level that you're targeting? I mean, what protein are you using at
On the
that
yard,
stage? Are you doing an 18 or a 20 or?
Okay. The protein, the conditioning formula that I have now is an 18%. But sometimes we'll add maybe a little more dog food. Well, everybody puts vitamins on it, and most people are probably feeding more than they think they are if they go to do it, put much additives on it, and they don't really factor that in. So, but I start with my grain mix is 18% before I put any additives on it. I have some people that feed 20% straight pellet, and they do very well. And then this discussion has been brought up several times: grain mix versus the straight pellet, and the protein. What's the best protein? I know some people feed 14, 16, 18, 20. I know some of all of them that do very well. So again, I think this whole industry is about what suits you and how you can get to where you want to be at.
Yeah, that's a good answer because I've also seen the same as you. I've seen guys using all the way from 14 to 22, and it's just and some guys have really good luck with it, and it depends on where you're at, depends on your birds, depends on how you manage them. So there's just too many variables to say one protein, is going to be right for everybody.
Yeah,
So
I
Kelly
think you're
wanted
right.
to know her. Yeah. So Kelly, he's up in Saskatchewan, but he wanted to know, are you going to Mexico? Do you do anything down there?
Yeah. I've got a farm down there, a small farm. I actually just use it for shipping chickens in and out.
Okay.
Ship them down there, then the guys ship them out. Yes, I'm going in December.
It's a good time to go. You going for Christmas? Taking the whole family?
No, I'll be back. I think it lasts about the event I'm going to about a week. I'll be back with probably 6 days, 5 to 6 days. I'll be gone.
Okay.
I can't stay gone very long. It's busy around here this time of year.
I heard they talked you into going to the Philippines in January too. So.
Well, that's still up in the air, but yes, we're thinking about it.
All right. So you didn't make a promise.
No, me and my friend Gene Body had traveled together. And Gene says, I'd like to go back one more time. I said, okay. I said, these Filipino guys are coming to see you. I'm going to let you make that decision. Whatever you decide is what I'm going to tell them. So I'm waiting on his decision. But I think it's a good possibility we may go at the end of January.
Man, that's a long trip over there, buddy. I'm telling you. That's, that 30 hours of flying, even if you get a good trip and you're down to 26 hours of flying, that's still 26-hour trip. I don't know about you, but that's hard on my body. I can never get to sleep right when I'm there. About the time I get used to the time change and the jet lag, it's time to come home. So
going is not as bad as coming home. When you get home, man, it's just like you. Take you 2 or 3 days to get over that jet lag. I'm telling you. I tell you what I used to do, and I've done this several times. I used to go to Sunset on Tuesday, Sunday night, catch a flight out of Lafayette, New Orleans, I mean. I'd be home by 1 o'clock Monday morning, say by 1 a.m. At 5:30 a.m., loading chickens headed to the Philippines and be gone 2 more weeks. Now, when I got back from that trip, I had to take some time off. I was give out.
you probably slept for a week, didn't you?
Hey, I was a lot younger then. I couldn't do it now.
Oh man,
But,
I
but
know
I've
every
done
time I
that.
go, and I'm dragging. Every time I go, I'm just dragging.
Yeah.
I can't get used to that time change. And the older I get, the worse it is. So
Well, the deal with the Filipinos, they're very accommodating people. So if you go somewhere and you're at an event all night, the next day I got to be up during the day taking care of chickens. They sleep all day. Comes that night, they're ready to go again.
yeah,
After a few days of that, well, you better, if you get some sleep, anytime you can get some sleep, like in between lunchtime or whatnot, I take me a nap because I know ain't gonna be much sleep in
yeah,
that when it gets dark.
it's gonna be a long day. Yes,
Yeah, it's
sir.
long now. So
So George and Saipan had another question about weather, and I don't know if you've got any good suggestions for him or not. But in Saipan and Guam area, you know, you can have periods of rain. Then I mean, then it's going to be really hot.
and humid.
Sometimes an hour of each, and I mean, you've spent enough time in the Philippines, you kind of know what he's talking about, but anything you can do to kind of take some stress off the birds, keep them a little on the sharper side.
The ideal situation, and a lot of places don't have this, is like a what we call a cockhouse. That's where the humidity and temperature is
Yeah,
elevated about the same. So every time you go, you're pretty close on what it's going to be. But when you got them outside, you're at Mother Nature's mercy. So you've got to learn
yeah,
what's going to keep them from picking up moisture, and what's going to put moisture in them if the humidity goes down. And in traveling chickens, the way I did from one place to the other, you catch on to that pretty quick because we might be in Arizona, and I went to Arizona or right smart, and then I'd be in Louisiana, and then we'd be in Mexico. So you learn to pay attention to the humidity and the temperature, especially the humidity.
yeah. And
That's
over
what
there,
you
it's all
got to learn.
humid. And when I've talked to George, cockhouses are not as common there.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a little bit tougher just trying to roll with that weather. And I spent 2 years in Guam, and I can tell you that weather is crazy, right? So just like
Yeah.
he's saying, you got the wet season and the dry season. So the dry season it rains once a day, and then the wet season it rains twice a day. And
Yeah.
I mean it's humid. So
You got to be. This is what I did. I remember years ago, if we went somewhere to a show and we did good, say we fed 10 grains of popcorn on Friday night. Well, you can bet your bottom dollar the next time we go, we're going to feed 10 grains of popcorn because it worked 2 weeks ago. When I quit thinking that and started thinking about where I'm at and the humidity and the temperature, because we may be totally different, I started being a little more consistent. But yeah, you got to forget about, well, we did this last time. That's what we're going to do this time. If you've got the same chickens and you've got the same humidity and the temperature and you're in the same location, maybe so. But man, I lost to go from, elevation of the 1,000 foot sea level down to zero or 200 or 300 from 2 weeks apart. But
yeah,
you got to think, you
yeah.
got to be thinking ahead on that.
So Peter had a question about what is there a set temperature and humidity that you're kind of setting the cockhouse at?
I like somewheres in the 60s on both. 50s is okay because in Mexico it is very dry down there, and a lot of places it's 30 and 40, and I don't want double make a great big difference in the change. Uh, Now I know some people that feed pellets, they keep it at 99. They want it as high as they can
Oh,
get it. But
humidity,
there again, yeah,
humidity.
but
Yeah,
there, yeah, humidity. But there again, a pellet dries chicken out. If you want him to dry moisture, I give him a couple pellets, and 2 more hours, you know, you can feel him start tightening it up because that pellet soaks up moisture. But I'd like to prefer in the 60s for the temperature and the humidity. That's my preference.
Yeah, when I was in the Philippines, I was seeing cockhouse temperature was like 68 to 72, but the humidity was anywhere from 50 to 65 most of the time.
Okay.
And that was just for the Philippines. But, you know, the weather's a little bit more consistent there, you know, for several days at a time. It's not as unpredictable, you know, like George has in Saipan. But, yeah.
Well, over there, it's a big difference in the morning versus the afternoon. That's how quick
Yes.
it changes in the Philippines.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, Richard Bates, I was talking to Richard over there one day, and Richard Bates was a guy from the U.S. that moved over there. He said, I don't even fill my chickens in the morning. He said, if you fill up them in the morning and go back and fill up them in the afternoon, you'll be running around here chasing things like you'll get completely confused. So it changes a lot over there from sun up to sundown. But there again,
Yeah.
you've got to find out what works best for you and watch those numbers and try to strive toward that every event or every show you
It's
go
tough.
to.
It's tough. Yep.
And like you said, humidity, temperature 70, humidity 50, chickens could be a little wet, so you want to drop that humidity and maybe some moisture out of it. And I'll tell you one thing, if you set them outside, if the wind's blowing, humidity's going to be low usually, unless it's raining or something. I've seen Carol E. Smith do that a lot. That wind gets to blowing, he set them outside if he thinks they're a little too wet. And
Yeah. One of the things I was really amazed at, you know, holding birds with Jen when I was over there is the lighter color birds, you know, the whites and the doms and things like that. They, you know, same conditions. They always felt drier than a red or a dark bird. And I was amazed by that. So that was just
right.
one of the things I learned, you know, with the time I had with him. You know, I picked up on that. But yeah, your white, you know, so your sports and your piles and things like that, they tended to carry a little bit less body weight or bedded body moisture. And I really don't know why. So I'm still learning. Still learning.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the answer to that one. I don't.
So,
I've never had many whites or piles. This year I do have a few whites, but first time, and I raised them for a friend of mine. But I've never really had that many much experience with that color chickens. But I know in the Philippines, them Doms, they use them a lot.
yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
you know, Big Boy's got them white chickens that he's got a lot of success with.
I just, from what I could tell, holding birds, you know, feeling them, they weren't as hard to get the moisture out of, or they just didn't carry as much moisture as the dark birds. And I really don't
Right.
know, you know, I haven't put the pieces together yet to figure that out. But, you know, if you went through and you picked up birds, even though they were the same weight in it, you know, you could just feel, you know, the moisture, the body moisture on them. And it was significant difference. So,
Okay.
all right, we're about at our time. You know, we wanted to really talk about the cookout and encourage guys to come, you know, next year if they can make it. It's a great event and it's for a great cause. So, anything else you want to add about the cookout to try and convince these guys they need to show up?
The cookout, tentatively, the schedule will be the third weekend in October. And
Okay.
we have a lot of good breeders that come out. This year we had Jean Baudier, Carol Nee Smith, and some of the breeders that couldn't bring chickens sent chickens. Bill Plummer was there, Troy Thompson, he's from Oklahoma. So it's a good time that you can talk to one of these guys if you want to ask questions about their chickens. and there'll be chickens there that they will have brought with them for auction. And then, like I say, the food's always great. So
Food is
it's a
always
very
great.
good trip for the. And one thing I really like about it is I see a lot of people that I don't generally see since I don't go nowhere in the United States. A lot of these guys that I grew up with, that I see them at this cookout. So I get the fellowship. I look forward to that.
I noticed a lot of that. Now, so if any of these guys wanted to come in for the cookout, I mean, if they set it up with you ahead of time, they can come. They can come to your place and see your birds. Are there other breeders around that would host visitors? Either before or after the cookout, if they wanted to do that.
The most of them that I know will. I don't know none of them that would say you can't, but the most of them, yes. There's some good breeders here in North and South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. Dennis Walker always comes from Tennessee, so he'd be a good one if you wanted to talk to. But yes, they would be places to go.
I kind of thought the really great breeders that I saw there, they were just kind of off in a corner by themselves. It didn't seem like they were talking a lot, but they were talking a lot. They had people coming by, and so they had a lot of good conversation. But they weren't right in the middle of the crowd, right? They were kind of off by their truck, or they were
they were off to the side,
off on the edge. Yeah, they
had a
their
few
own
drop
little crowd
pins and
going
some
on there,
birds
so,
in it.
Yeah.
So, well, like, back to that tent was we need a larger tent. So there were so many people in there talking to the vendors and stuff, and then people talking, and you can't hear what they're saying sometimes because there's so many people, and so that's the reason I think you've seen a lot of them off to the side. That way, that it's a little more private if you want to ask some questions.
Yep. All right. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up tonight, Jeff?
No, I'm good, but I appreciate you having me on the show, and I appreciate y'all coming. And like I say, if there's any way I can help with anything in the future that you need, just give me a call.
Yeah. You think we can get you back on just to talk about chickens sometime? Chickens only?
We can.
Okay. All right. Let's get past the holidays and let things settle down, and we'll try and get you back on maybe February or March, when you get back from the Philippines. All right.
Oh, that would be amazing when after he gets back from the Philippines, he come on and tell us about what all happened in the Philippines and in Mexico.
Yeah. I used to go over there.
Valentine's Day.
I used to go over there twice a year. I went 2 times there. Started in '95, but I'd go twice a year, and so I got going back and forth pretty regular. Like I say, it's a long trip, and I enjoyed it. Hey, first time I went over there, if I didn't have family here, I'd never come home. I'd stay.
Come on, don't say that too loud. We're going to lose too many guys from the States.
Well, there is several went over there stayed.
I don't know.
But it is. If you like poultry shows, you'll like it. You'll love it over there. If you've got the right connections with the right people. Now, not every situation is perfect.
No. You need to check it out and talk to some people before you go. So
I was going to say that I wouldn't just hop on a plane and go over there. I would do a lot of homework before you do that.
Yeah, don't just take off over there. But even if you did, and it was there and there that you were going, there's hotels there close to it. You would run up with someone that would have an interest in talking to you about your fowl if that's what you chose, because that's all they talk about over. I mean, you see it in the newspaper, you see it on the TVs, on the radio shows. I'm walking through the mall one day and I see a big poster there, and it showed up my picture on it, and it says the Yanks are here. That's what they called us when we first started going over. The Yanks are here, and this was in the mall.
That's hilarious. They had you on the newspaper.
Oh yeah, I mean, you come out of a show if you won or something, they'd be out there interviewing you. They come to they'd come up to the farm, the newspaper would, and do interviews. I mean, it's a big deal over there.
I heard somebody say, I think like 10,000 roosters a year and like $10 billion in bedding going on. So it's crazy over there. They're in everybody's backyard. So yeah.
You
All
can
right,
go
sir.
down the
We
street-
really appreciate you coming tonight. Huh?
Okay. You can go down the street and in the medium, where's grass, you'll see chickens in drop pens.
Mhm.
Yep,
kidding.
you're right. I know. You're right.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for having me, and
All right.
y'all have a good night.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay,
We appreciate your time. We'll get you back on.
Take care of them.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.